Yari, lads and lasses and MBs, welcome back to the Breaking Brad podcast. And boy, oh boy, do we have a juicy one for y'all today. Because myself, Richard and Trav have some juicy goss about our time in the wrestling biz. Yeah, that's right. Believe it or not, the three of us used to be involved in the wonderful world of professional wrestling. So sit back, relax, because it's an interesting one. There's going to be positives, there's going to be negatives, but that's just life, as Frank Sinatra once said. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this pod as we all talk our time in the wonderful world of professional wrestling.
You say some people. I still am technically right, so go easy on me, that's all I'm saying. There's also some of you out there that haven't even wrestled or worked hard enough to pin that bloody follow button, to pin that subscribe button, to follow us on all the social medias at Breaking Brad Pod on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and here on Spotify or YouTube, whichever one you're watching or listening to us on. Cheers!
We, of course, lead to our cute little boppity bop, where we talk about we've what been. Yeah, and with that, we head to our cute little sing-song of what we've been up to leading to this week's podcast. Take it away, TJ Trav.
Vengeance at the start, vengeance. Vengeance at the start, vengeance.
Yeah, that was really good. I can't fucking hear it. That was a really... You're telling me to be more thingy and get into it, and I'm just like...
Yeah.
And then you fuck it up.
I really hope that came through in the edit. If not, then I guess...
No, it didn't.
No, soundboard's not working. Might have to be an editing job.
What have we been up to this week, folks? Come on, give me the gas.
I have quite literally been drinking hot tea all week. I'm ill, as you can tell. I'm bunged up to the eyeballs. I have my Lemsip, and I'm just praying it goes away soon.
Oh, it's all right. Your voice sounds more like... You got a very soothing voice as it is, as I keep saying. Like I love your voice. You don't like your voice, but I love it. So I feel like you could read like nighttime stories and like the ASMR stuff. I really think you'd be quite good at that. Believe it or not, like I don't know why, but to me, your voice is just like Markiplier, Morgan Freeman-esque. Not quite to that level, but I like your voice. I hate mine. I don't like Travis's either. Speaking of trash, sorry mate. What have you been up to this week, Bob?
Another year older. Had my birthday. Had a haircut. That's different. I don't know if I've done the podcast while I've had my hair cut. I don't think so. So this is what I look like with short hair. For all you all you visual viewers out there. Yeah, so had good times on my birthday. Bradley came. Went to York yesterday. Fun times, fun stuff. And whilst I was at York, I thought I would solidify my fandom of a specific franchise that I haven't liked for a long time. I didn't like Harry Potter for the longest because my sisters used to watch it and it was on all the time. I think I might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, can't remember. Got sick of it, rewatched them all, had a lot of fun. So now I can come up in this bitch and fucking Avada Kedavra you all. Look at this, man. Bloody Albus Dumbledore, the Elder Wand, the Horcrux, mate. Voldemort tried to take Harry Potter out with his bad boy. But guess what? I've got it, so have a bit of that.
That's exactly what J.K. Rowling wants to do to me.
I didn't do this for her. I did this for me, alright? Because I'm a fucking wizard, bitch, and I will zap you.
I could have just gone out into my back garden and just got, I picked up a stick off the ground. And it's free. I'll just do the prototypical crying, wanking, raging over Crash Bandicoot. Oh, and I went out for Trav's birthday. And with that, let's get into the episode and talk our journeys into the wonderful and weird wrestling world. Locally, neighborinos, even though we're not neighbours because we all live in 3 different parts of the UK. Who wants to go first? Fight between the 2 of you. Do you know what? Actually, no. I'll go with you, Travis, because you're still in the biz, if you will. So, Trav, tell us your... Well, you're coming into the business and your current state in the wrestling business, if you will, mate.
Getting into the business thing was kind of, again, something I won't get too much into, but briefly did some kooky pretend backyard wrestling thing with Bradley back in the day and was like, yeah, it'd be sick if I could do this for proper, but never really did. Then Bradley started training and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it at the same time as him. So this was at the beginning of NSAW. So I was going to join right at the very beginning. Then couldn't because I had a lot of anxiety about first year at uni and whether I'd pass and stuff. Lol jokes, got a degree from it, fuck you, egg lady. Yeah, and then third year, I was like, right, I'm going to set up a wrestling society at uni, Wrestling Appreciation Society. And then I was just kind of saying to everyone, like, wouldn't it be mad if we did a show? And everyone was like, yeah, but where would we even start? What would we even do? And I was like, yeah, good point. And then obviously I knew that Bradley had connections to Richard and other people that were involved in NSAW at the time. And I was just kind of like, if I don't really approach anyone about it, there's not really a possibility it could happen. So just kind of went for it. And then a couple talks later about having a bit of a business relationship kind of thing. And I started doing my wrestling journey last year in November or October, it would have been. So 2022. And then trained for 6 months, had the match with Brad, had a gauntlet match before that, did about 2 or 3, I think it might have been 2 matches for NSAW, did one for WAS, and then since then, is just kind of been waiting for the new season, should we call it, with the new committee and stuff of WAS, like waiting for the shows to start and stuff, going to training to prepare for the next ones, which one was supposed to happen. It didn't. I'm not going to get too much into it, but so the next one's in April, so I'm just going to train and go for that and work whatever program comes up. And with the stories, I know that I've already got bubbling away and planned. I'm excited to start them. My plans for future of wrestling, I don't know. Once this last WAS show's over, unless WAS is about next year, I probably won't actually get properly into wrestling. I'll probably just do those fun charity shows to raise money, and then I don't know if I'll keep going to become a wrestler and work on other shows in the local area, or if I'll just cut it out and something else will replace the spot that wrestling training has for me right now.
Oh, I hope you don't get like pack it in straight away after WIS is like. Well, I don't reckon, but I know that you could go places with it. Obviously, you've still got a foot in the door with TC Edits. Cheeky plug. You're welcome. Where you you do your photography and your videography stuff for wrestling shows, and of course you've done a few other independent stuff outside of the wrestling scene with the company as well. Well, yeah, no, I truly hope you don't give it up. But again, it's your decision. You know, you've got the choice to give it up. Unfortunately, I didn't.
I'd say the only reason why I say that really, and this is like probably one of the only things I'll talk politically about when it comes to the pod, is that for me now, it would have to be a case of being involved in a company that either comes up in the future or one that's already established that I've not discovered fully yet, where professional and personal life stays separate, and where the people that are running it don't have like ulterior motives or favourites or stuff like that, and where you actually just get a shot because you've earned it or because you've grinded. It's not like I should have every sort of choice of what I do, but I'd like to have somewhere where you still kind of have control
creative
over your
freedom.
character. Yeah, I want control over my character. I just want to be in a place with someone that runs it, that's mature and responsible and whatever else. I'm not saying anywhere that I've ever worked that's not the case. I'm just saying for me personally, that's all I want really. But wherever schools are running, I'm still going to train there, especially the ones that are close to me because they're cost effective and they're easy and you get value for money, whether it's in time in the ring or expertise, depending on which ones you go to. That's the only way I'd kind of stick about after WAS stuff, because WAS gives me an excuse to do what I love. The people that are running it, as in the committee, they actually understand the fun side of the wrestling, and because it's not an actual promotion or a company, you can be a lot more lenient and goofy and stuff like that, which my character is as well, so it kind of suits.
It's very few between where you won't get companies or promoters or bookers that don't play favourites, don't have personal ulterior motives and what have you. It's a shame because it really ruins the experience and the fun of it, and that's all it should be. Sure, it fucking hurts, don't get me wrong, because believe it or not, wrestling, it's not some fun little bouncy trampoline thing. This wasn't from a fucking fun bouncy trampoline. It's from a bunch of fucking steel and wood, and it fucking hurts, believe it or not. And, it is what it is. People can run their companies how they want to run them. They'll book you how they want to book you. It's whatever. Unless you're not getting paid, then fuck that. Fight for that. But yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, Trev. But again, like I say, hopefully you stick at it. But if you don't, you've done it. Like I say, like I've said, I've lived my dream, yada yada, all that crap. You did your part, I did my part. We got to do it. We dreamt of it as kids, just stepping in there just once. And we did it.
No, I think just to add to what you're saying, like, I think someone said it to me, and I can't remember where or when they said it. They said, like, you've either got to arse lick in some places, or you get your arse licked. And I'm not saying that's everywhere, but the way I envision it is a bit like how I ran WAS last year, where even if I ran it, I wouldn't necessarily go, oh, well, I'm the top dog, and I'm like the totem pole that you have to reach to. Like, you're here, and you have to get up to my standard. Like, I would be very much like, if I'm shit in a certain department, like, when it comes to tech in wrestling matches, I'm crap. But if there was someone that was better than me at tech, I'd book them instead of myself, because I'm humble that way. Just because I'm a top Donny of something doesn't mean I have to prove it by going, oh, I'll be in the main event, or I determine whether you get real wrestling experience in the ring. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of that as well, of people think they're the standard, when really sometimes they're not even on the level they elevate themselves to.
Yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping and stuff in the business. What it is, unfortunately, it's, Leopard never changes its spots. But, Richard, as
I just want to come in very quick on the gatekeeping point that you mentioned there and say, yes, there is. As someone who came into the industry with no prior experience in wrestling and taking everything head on, there were a lot of people who just are not interested in working with you at all. Doesn't matter what part of the business you're there to deal with, they're quite resistant. There's a lot of unwillingness to take advice and criticism in wrestling.
Surely that's a bit stupid if, say, someone like you who would have been in a position where you were, where you had to pay wrestlers, if you think you're on that much of a pedestal where you don't have to interact with the people that pay you, then surely you're not getting fucking paid then, because if you can't respect the people that are giving you the money, you don't deserve the money, no matter what job you've done.
Coming from a management role, so to speak, take us through, prior, as you just said, you weren't in it and you weren't a fan and, what have you, no prior experience. Take us through what led to the decision of becoming part of the business, and of course the current state and where you led to nowadays.
I could not stand wrestling at all. I despised it. I used to enjoy it when I was a kid, and then I got to about 11 and hated it. I was an unpleasant child, so it's not surprising that things that involved social interaction made me cringe. Eventually, I met a friend in college who ended up getting into the backyard scene and convinced me to go to a couple of shows. They weren't good. I'm saying this in the nicest possible way. They weren't good. And they became aware of this. They became aware of the amount of cringe being put out into the world and decided to do something about it. So I kind of stopped going to the shows because I got through a few and it became a little bit too much. He came to me with an idea, and it was, let's start a wrestling promotion ourselves. Let's do it properly. Let's do it professionally. So I was a little like, why? Why do you need me there? I don't like it. On the surface, I was there to deal with the paperwork. On the underside of things, apparently I was the background checker for everybody come the end of our time there. We eventually said, okay, let's do it. We got the paperwork sent off, and the company was made official on like the 1st of June or something, sometime in June in 2021. And we did our best.
Sorry, I just had to
So far as
clear my throat. Can I just say, you did your best. And that's not me licking ass or anything. You fucking were the backbone of that place. The amount of bullshit that you had to deal with from then till just recently. But
I'm going to counter.
yeah.
I'm counteracting that point with Richard did fuck all. They did nothing.
I
From
mean,
what I've heard.
if you ask anybody within, the regular staff of
that company.
of that place, if you ask them what I did, none of them would be able to tell you. And I realised that just as I left, when I sent 2 years worth of paperwork to them all, and none of them had it was like they were looking at it from the first time. That was an experience.
Just didn't pull your weight, did you, Richard? You lazy shit.
No, not at all. If anybody asks, I did absolutely nothing. And I don't know why I would have sat there and done nothing. It's not like I was getting paid for it. If I wanted to do nothing, I'd sit at home. The company made it off the ground. We started doing shows. They weren't the most glamorous. We had our own little small venue with a landlady that did a lot for us. And very, very grateful. Bit of a saint, honestly.
I don't. We at no point do we mean any ill to her either, because one, she'd beat the shit out of all of us in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And two, she actually did help you guys a lot of time and stood up for a lot of bullshit. Like, she could have easily gone, hit the road, but she didn't.
Wrestling is a contact sport, as everybody knows, and people getting thrown around tends to make other things get thrown around as well. That leads to things breaking, and tolerated us amazingly well. We got to a bit of a bump in the road about a year in, and we had a bit of a collapse from the inside and had to do a restructure. I'll hold my hands up and say I was partially responsible for that. There was a bit of an argument, and it goes into what you both were saying about there's so many egos and politics in this, and it wasn't something I was ready for. And I'm not very good at somebody showing an ego to me and then forgetting it and letting them move on, because I know what they then think, and that sets the tone for my working relationship with them, which, as you can imagine, when you work very closely together, doesn't go well. We got an entirely new management team. We thought we divided everything out a little more so nobody was overworked and overstressed. I took the time to draw up a rota and everything like that to make sure everybody knew what they were doing and when, and things just kind of stayed at that level. We never really got better. There were a lot of pushes to do better, but we kind of just sat where we were. And then it started coming apart. The tension started building again because everybody wanted more. Everybody claimed to want the best for it. And I can only think of 2 or 3 people that probably did.
And 2 of them are on this podcast.
It's like they say, if you leave water to settle too long, it gets stagnant. If you're not willing to add a bit of carbonation in there, the water will never get fizzy. You can't just say, I want this to get bigger, but then be so comfortable that you never actually break out of the comfort zone to make it more.
That's exactly it. I refuse to accept that anyone other than myself Richard, another person that we'll have on the show in the future, who will in fact be our first ever guest. Richard's mention of the restructuring of management. So with my role, I was a social media guy, doing the whole sort of, I don't really need to get into it, just posting statuses and photos and yada yada, doing bits on the YouTube. So yeah, I was just doing the social medias. Richard again, there was the HR person, and then the other person that we mentioned. Should I mention their role? Will it give it away, or does it not really matter? They were the booker. They were the booker. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm not mentioning names, but yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, we can mention his name. He's a big fan of the pod.
Yeah, but I don't really want them unless they don't want their name. Right, fuck it, I'll say it. So I'll message him and be like, yo, can we mention your name? And if he says no, then we'll just bleep it out. But yeah, it was Ty Harper, also known as Champ Rogers, or now known as War. And they fucking worked their ass off. They gave beautiful, fantastic, tantalising posters, match cards, as well as being their booker.
All the stories actually made sense and had build as well.
Exactly. And then I was just a social media guy. Richard again was HR, along with a person with very many other hats, because the chairman was delegating everything else to everyone else. The supposed chairman was just sitting there, saying stuff, not really acting on much of anything. Just basically saying, all right, we'll do this and do that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but you can do that, and you do this, and you do that. So where he demand and ask and want people to do stuff and, come up with all these ideas and fanciful things, he'd then pass it to us to figure out, How is the social media guy supposed to figure... Why is the social media guy messaging other people to bring onto the shows? Shouldn't that be the booker's job? Shouldn't that be the chairman's job? Why are you asking me to message other people to be like, yo, we've got this show coming up, blah, 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 do you want to be on it, yada, yada. Especially when I'm just a newbie in the business. Again, I'm just a social media guy, and I don't have the connections that, in fact, Ty had, and how the fucking chairman himself had.
I'm gonna jump back in then.
Sorry, mate, yeah, go on. Go on.
No, it's all good. So what I would say is, it became very quickly an issue of finance. British wrestling is not a booming industry, or rather it is in the right areas, and it's certainly not where we were. Now, arguably, that could have been put down to the fact that we weren't doing that well towards the end. But, like you say, you leave water long enough, it turns stagnant. Sure enough, tensions started building again, and in the intervening, we discovered that wrestling also harbours a lot of unpleasant people who shouldn't really be around. I'm going to say anyone vulnerable. We very quickly had to sort of, where my role kind of extended into background checker and looking into people and finding out why they'd been released from certain places. And ironically, the one thing that nobody's ever had an issue with speaking to me about in the wrestling industry is drama and gossip. And I find that fascinating that I never really got a level of respect for the work I did. But if I wanted to know the tea, everybody was willing to talk. It is it's an industry where nobody keeps their mouth shut. And so many people get lost in their characters and are convinced that it's a real thing. And you just need to take a step back when you get to that point. But yeah, it was my job to sift through all the bullshit and then find out what was right and wrong, and then take the appropriate actions, whether that was calling adult social care or the police or not very nice places. Towards the end, I'd kind of given up. As I mentioned, I had the experience where I'd found out that basically every piece of work, which is important stuff, you're looking at risk assessments for shows, you're looking at the health and safety procedures, you're looking at what to do if somebody gets injured, all the forms we need to file for the insurance, registers, and none of it had been done. And it got to the point where it was too much, and I left. we all know what happened after that. I'm not going to say I don't feel like it's my place. It's Brad's podcast. I'm sure he'll want to. But I left, and I say I'm out of the industry. I'm working on a little project to take me on the outskirts, but there will be more info on that soon.
The one thing that you said that really stuck out, which I've got another thing to elaborate on, because it's not really about anyone in particular. There are a lot of people out there that, for some reason, even though they're on this in reality, they're in this really, really small scale of wrestling. Like, the scale that we're in now is so small. You've got people that are higher up than us, like Future Shock. He's probably the next one up. Then you've got Progress. Then you've got, your bloody AEWs, WWEs, all that. There's so many people that only ever see the character side of wrestling because they watch wrestling and then think when they join the industry, oh, I have to be my character as much as possible, and that makes me promotable. The thing is, even though you don't see it on camera, you do realise that WWE superstars and AEW wrestlers, when they're not in character, they actually are just themselves and, like, have their families and that. They're not just their characters, yet they're some of the most paid people in the industry. There's some people that, like the guy who currently trains me, won't say his name, but he's a great example of someone that is on this lower level that has a very good balance between being him as a person and then knowing when to crank it up to be a character. Some people literally take their social media game and their character skills so far that they eventually...
They don't know how to switch it off from
Yeah,
character and being
sometimes
themselves.
sometimes they literally, their personality, like they say in wrestling, your personality should be your gimmick but turned up to 100. But what happens when your gimmick takes over your personality and you don't know who you are anymore and you think you are just that character?
How you doing? Feel free to bleep that if you want. I prefer you didn't, but you will.
To be fair, that was the example I thought of, I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't say he's on a high pedestal either, but he thinks he is.
So, we've had Travis, we've heard Richard, now me. Yay! So, to recap from my previous get to know me thing, so again, watched it as a kid, met Travis, we both got into it, did the backyard thing, got into wrestling, got into the wrestling ring, got training, yada yada, boom, all that. I started in March of 2021. Made my debut in December of 2021 on a trainee academy show in a 6-man tag. Ironically, against 5 of the people that either aren't in the business anymore or shouldn't be, except for maybe one of them. So again, I was in-house for a little while with Ensor, and then I got my first ever outside booking at Blackheart, which was fucking incredible. I love Blackheart Wrestling. Shout out to James Rutherford and Lawrence Freeze. Fucking diamonds, the both of them. Especially Lawrence. We talk quite regularly. And he's just an absolute legend. And Blackheart is probably my favourite company that I've ever worked for. And it's just everything about it. It's well put together. The owners are actually decent. It's definitely it's like a callback to what you mentioned earlier, Travis, about ulterior motives and what have you. Blackheart Wrestling is the only company that I've ever felt that A, didn't play favourites, and B, never had any ulterior motives. They just let everyone be themselves, just do what they wanted and do what they needed, and just play their part to perfection. I don't really count WAS because, again, like Travis said, it's not really a company. They just do the charity events, which are fucking awesome. And props to them. With the whole Kyle Kennedy thing, you're not aware, my wrestling character was the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. I was essentially the muscle, if you will, of the team known as the Society. I never really, from day one, and I mentioned this multiple times, I never really felt like I fit in I just didn't look right. I don't know how you guys feel. I just felt really out of place whenever I watched stuff or saw photos and stuff. Again, I just didn't look like I fit. It just wasn't me. I tried my fucking best, and every time, I did the thing, I did my match, I did everything that I needed to. Because again, believe it or not, I'm a professional, and if I'm asked to do something, I'm gonna do it. And I was asked to be a part of this weird goth cult faction thing, which again didn't feel like me, but I did it. Because again, it's a foot in the door, and it's something to grit my teeth into and figure out what I can do and go from there. I had a good 2.5-year run, and of course, towards the end is when it turned sour. Well, I say it turned sour, it's just one of them that turned sour. The rest of them, again, I'm still chill with.
And
But
one of
yeah,
them got exiled for being a creep.
well, luckily we upgraded. So towards my tenure with Ensor, this was after I got hurt. So again, I prefaced it earlier. I never felt wanted. I never felt heard. I never felt needed. And of course, within my role in management, again, I was just a social media guy. And there was other people uploading and doing stuff anyway. Ty was doing bits and the chairman was doing bits. So again, my role was kind of just being diminished slowly and slowly. And again, there was other things towards the end. And then, of course, when I got hurt, what you expect from people that you grow with and hang with and go up and down the roads, if you will, with for 3 years, and when you get the news that you can't do what you loved, you expect those people to reach out, to offer a hand, to offer some help. I never got that from barely any of them. I can name, I don't want to count Travis in this because again, he's my best mate of 14 years, so that's obvious, that's moot. There was like, 3 people, I think, 3 or 4 people that I think I can name off the top of my head that actually reached out straight away. Callum, Richard, Ty, and Sammy. Gareth Angel, who, according to people in the biz, me and him had some weird thing. I was just trying to get noticed, and it worked. And again, it was Kyle saying stuff and doing stuff. It wasn't Brad. So you'd never see me posting on my Bradley Hiley Facebook or whatever, like, oh, Gareth Angels are this, oh, GTM's that. It was always on my Kyle Kennedy account, because again, it was business, it wasn't personal. It was just trying to get noticed as Kyle Kennedy. It was just Kyle Kennedy trying to get booked. And it worked, believe it or not. But again, it was all a work, brother. But so yeah, he reached out. A guy that people thought, well, they don't like each other clearly, is the boss man over at GTM, where Travis trains and a few of the other WAS fellas train, and they're killing it at the moment. And I call them rejects in the nicest of ways, because they're not rejects, but that's how I'm going to word it. It's where the Ensor rejects have kind of jumped to, because the person that trains at GTM is fucking reputable and actually good at their job and doesn't do the same old shtick over and over again. You learn something new, believe it or not, every training session. Travis can say this because he's been there. I can say this because I've seen footage and I've been told this. The improvement is fucking vast and incredible. And again, I don't want to name his name because, again, like Travis mentioned, he might not want his name mentioned, so that's chill, it's fine. But the head trainer at GTM fucking knows his stuff. And again, he's not going to be like kissing ass and licking ass and be like, you're probably fucking good, you are. Yeah, you're ready, you're sure ready. I wish I didn't have my first match within the first 7 months because I was nowhere near ready, and I'll admit that now. Sure, at that time when I had my match in my debut, I was like, yeah, this is fucking epic, this check me out, mate. But I come to look 3 years later, and I should have been so much further along than I was. 3 years in the business, and I didn't learn anything truly reputable. And that is one of my biggest regrets, not jumping to somewhere else.
I would like to say I'm not responsible for the training regime at Bleep, that play.
But the training regime there, was filled with a mid-card, well, not even a mid-carder, a lower mid-carder, who was the head trainer, who thought he was the dog's bollocks.
Who decides 1 minute, oh, I love you, and the next, as soon as you leave, oh, he's just a hindrance. Oh, he was just nothing to us. Says it publicly in front of all. Says it publicly to all trainees in the trainee group chat, and thinks nobody's going to call them out for it.
And then another trainer who would talk all this big shit for, ironically, a little man and doesn't even fucking show up because either his alarm didn't go off or, any other excuse that he'd come up with just because he couldn't be asked, which is ironic because he would talk a big game about getting you working, getting the training, blah, 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 all of this. And then when he was asked to come and help train, there was fucking nowhere to be seen. Don't worry, I'm all saying this is just in jest.
Free speech is dead. I don't know what you're talking about. Can't say fucking anything nowadays.
Tell me you did not just say what I thought it said.
Oh.
It's alright, that NDA's out at window now.
There'll be a series of complex tweets. You can decipher the meaning later.
The thing with the chairman of that company is that he had all of these yes men around him, and again, he would just delegate everything to everyone else, and he wonders why, after Richard left, it all just goes to nothing, and he wants to proclaim... You can bleep this bit out if you want, Trev. Utter fucking bollocks. He's not closed it, because... Which he does, and I wish him all the best with that. Believe me, I truly do. I'd be a disgusting foul person if I didn't wish them well. But the fact that he's tried to play it off as it's just utter bollocks when the company from day one didn't make one fucking quid. You've lost Richard. You've lost the fucking backbone and the person that fucking held everything together. I know it sounds really cringe and you probably won't take any nuance for that. But it's fucking true. You were the fucking backbone of that place, because that place would have fucking folded after 6 to 12 months the previous time. And it somehow lasted 3 years, and as soon as you leave, what was it? And I'm going to quote you here, and I quote, 8 hours, that's all it took. It's not going to hiatus, mate. It's fucking done, it's kaput. I know you're going to get pissy, but I'm saying this out of respect. I'm not trying to be a knobhead. Continue. This possibility of staying in the business, that's fine, because you are very good. You're a great wrestler. And that sounds sarcastic. I didn't mean for it to sound sarcastic, but he is. He's a very good wrestler. So I wish him all the best in that regard, too. I'll be the bad guy again, like you and the rest of those knobheads in management tried to make me and Ty look. And I would assume this is all getting fucking cut out anyway, so I don't know why I'm saying this, and it better fucking not. And if it is cut out, I'm going to be really pissed off. So please don't cut any of that out, Trav.
Right, anyway, moving on from whatever the fuck that was. Next time on part 2 of this Breaking Brad podcast. Oh, you've got to have your Longsdale boots. You're on day 0, mate. If you decided to book that on the same day you knew a show you was working and half of your roster was working on that day, you should have cancelled that guest seminar.
It's just not necessary. He's your best fucking trainee and you don't book him for your shows.
Furries is just something I'm like, I don't get that. That's not for me.
Put the ring up, take the ring fucking down. If the company you were attending needs to set up and pack away, help.
Walk out, fuck you, cunt. Brush your teeth, lad. I've certainly never wished injury upon someone. What the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck the both of you.
No company, no wrestling company should be training children. Full stop.
I know the fucking difference, right, between taking a picture of a woman when she doesn't want to have a picture taken and how that's wrong. So he doesn't understand consent, but he can book out a building and book wrestlers and put on a fucking show. No, I'm sorry, that's fucking wrong, mate.
Like, I really want to see him piss off the wrong person. I want him to threaten someone huge just once, and I want to see his little skull get stomped onto the pavement.
I don't want to be in a team with him. I don't want to be in a company with him. And I refuse to work with you and for you if you're going to allow him to be here.